Here is the simple watch kit that I'm hoping to assemble in the video. And looks like it's got all the parts. Even includes a battery. It's got 2 ICs. And I don't really need to go through all this in too much detail, but it's got 4 10K resistors, a battery holder, what they call a tube in the instructions. That's this little LED. See that? And the PCB board looks pretty quality. I'm thinking the hardest part of this kit is going to be to fit it into these acrylic casings so that it fits in snugly and in place, because I think the battery is part of what holds it in place. I'm not really sure. I'll have to look at that later. But you got 2 buttons. You got some screws. I'll put the screws over here for now. Four screws, 5 screws. I don't know why there's 5 screws, but there are. There's also 5 nuts. All right. There's 2 small capacitors and one that's a little bigger. There's a crystal. See the crystal? And that's pretty much all there is. So this is a real simple build. And 10K resistors in place. My soldering iron should be hot. I'm going to tin it. I got the sponge and I got the wire brush, and what I need is solder. Here we go. So those are good enough. They could be like cold welds, cold solder joints, if you're not careful, but this is a very good PCB. Thing is to just hold the soldering iron on there for a second or two, and then move the solder into place between the soldering iron and both sides of the joint. See, I got some of those little pointy things there. I got a little fan that I keep. Keep the smoke from the solder from going in my face. It's not good to breathe it. I'm using 60/40 with flux in the center. Just snipping away these wires. Doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so there are our resistors. Now I'm going to take these 22s capacitors, and there's one there, and one here, just get these in next. They're not facing the same direction, but I don't really care. And again, I'm going to turn on my fan. Sometimes the thing to do is to hold the soldering iron through the joint and count to 3, and then put the solder there. Turn off the fan. Snip, snip, snip. And I'm not letting these wires fly off into space. That one's a little long. I'm kind of piling them up here. Now they all stuck to my pliers, my snipping pliers. What am I going to do here? Alright, so next I'm going to put this this 104 capacitor, and I think that goes right there. I think the instructions tell you what it is. Welding the resistor, crystal oscillator, and capacitor. Alright, that's all one step. So here we go, the fan's back on. Soldering, I think, is my calling. Okay, fan's off. Snip. Where does that crystal go? .32768 hertz. Right there. That's where the crystal goes. So probably I want to bend the crystal like that. And the fan goes back on. Clean the soldering iron. Oh, that was terrible. Alright. And where'd the crystal go? Where did the crystal go? Here it is. Yeah. Alright, not quite what we wanted. We'll tie it onto the board. So I'm just going to press that and heat that up. Whoops, wrong one. Come on, you can do it, Johnny. There we go. All right. Clean the soldering iron. Move that plier out of my way. I'm using sort of a round, flat-tipped. Let's look at the schematic. Let's see, there is that 22P going to X1, which is position 2, pin 2 on the DS1302. So pin 1, 2, so those are supposed to touch, so I'm not going to worry about that. Let me snip those wires. There's one. There's the other one. So the whole trick is going to get that that pin in there, and let's figure out where that goes here. This is the end with the mark. There's a little, if you look on the bigger one, you'll see that little indentation mark, the white curve, and there's a little indentation here. So we're going to put those together. But first we're going to make sure the holes line up, which they don't. So we're going to try and squeeze that in a little bit. Squeeze it this way. And making sure that they line up again. We're going to try and squeeze that there. So we got everybody lined up, except that one guy don't want to go in because he's got solder there. So we're going to do this a very tricky way, hopefully. No, he's not lined up. Line these guys up exactly. This guy we're going to have to push a little. There we go. Now we're going to heat that up and push him in. Come on. Oh, he's getting hot. This may be frustrating. Let's put a little more solder on there. Get some flux. I know everybody's lined up, so if we melt that just so, want a little, why don't it want to go? Well, this will be amusing if nothing else. There we go. He's bent in there a little, but he should go. So let's see if we can't get this to go through by heating it up without overheating that little chip. It really wants to go. It's too hot. No, he ain't going. Somebody ain't lined up. I got a feeling it's still this guy. Well, we're probably going to edit out this anyway. That guy is definitely not lined up. What's it going to take to get you into line? Okay, let's try again. See if we get that a little further in there. And by keeping my hand on it, I'm preventing the chip from getting too hot. Because when it gets too hot, my hand gets too hot. There we go. Perfect. How do you like that? And there. Give it a minute to breathe. That guy should be good, but he's kinky. Let's be more careful with the other one. There's my little notch. My little notch is going to go in this direction. So this time let's make sure they line up exactly right. So I'm just going to roll it. Roll the other side. And once again, we'll make sure we have our notches lined up. Still not close enough. All right, let's try it one more time. Let's roll it in a little bit. Make sure we got it in the right direction. That's something you can forget to do very easily. And there, that's lined up perfectly. Now this one has a lot of pins on it, so I'm going to do them very slowly. And I'm going to put this pair of pliers under here. And maybe I'll put the tweezers in there. And I'm just going to do one. If I can find one that's not touching anything. Alright. So we do one pin, we make sure it's all level, it's facing the right direction. Now we can go ahead and do them all. And we can jump around a little, so that it doesn't get too hot and fry the chip. I'm just going to peel that sticky thing off. Put that there. Now this, you want to make sure the pins are perfectly aligned. And you want to make sure it's facing the right direction. Now I don't have a picture. They have a picture at the bottom. So the decimals go on the bottom, battery is on the bottom. So this is going to line up right in here. So I just want to get this one straight. That one just so. Look at that. So we'll do one of these. Again, we're going to take our time with these. And we're going to not overheat this circuit. That is nice and flat. I can't help but wondering what those 4 holes were for. Probably to program it. Says they don't get used. And then after we get this, we'll do the switch and we'll be all set. Put the battery in. Let's try this. And I'm hoping you can see all this. And we'll let that cool off. And we missed the solder joint. Oh my. Good catch. Always miss one. Alright, so now we got to get the other side. Let's snip these off. Here's my snippers. Notice I forgot to turn the fan off. Alright, now I can come in at these from this side. So let's try that. That goes on like this. It does it. Go on like this. I don't have that, seriously. I think I'm pretty sure it goes on like this. This part has to be pushed down a little. Well, I'll be darned, that's in there. So let's just put a ton of solder on that. Alright, then we got 2 switches and we're all done. 2 momentary push button switches. Now these also, I don't want to bend the legs. I want to get them in just right. still that clock chip that I may have messed up. So we got one bent leg. You have to push on that with a little authority. Let's put the other one in too. Seeing we had so much trouble with that. Get that lined up just right. Right. We want those in nice and flat because they have to fit through holes. So, and see the whole thing take off. And what does it say? It says, press 2 buttons for the restoration of circuit at the same time till it shows 12 o'clock. Alright, let's try that. Now you never know if they're going to give you button cell battery or not. No, I should have been more careful with this button cell battery holder. There we go. Right, turn up that light, and that is the bottom. So we press them both, and we got 0, 0. So here is the finished product. Very nice looking little watch. The acrylic case came out really nice. Press the button, tells you the time. Goes off in 5 seconds to save the battery. And we'll see how long that battery lasts. And it was a little tricky to get this acrylic case put together. See if we can get that to focus. Sorry about that. Come on. There we go. A little tricky to get that acrylic case because the 2 screws, the nuts go on the second layer on each side, and then the screws go from opposite sides with everything lined up just right. But once you know that, it's pretty easy. So the lesson learned is to make sure those pins on those ICs line up with the holes perfectly before you try to put them in. And also, if you get a solder in a hole for one of those ICs, don't try to force the IC through that hole. But you can use the desoldering tool and the soldering iron and the helping hands and hold it sideways and put the soldering iron on one side of the hole and the desoldering tool on the other side of the hole, and you will usually clear up that hole. So lesson learned. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and give me a like or a thumbs up or subscribe or a rumble.